Hi, my name is Justin Smith, and I'm here with Rebecca Gerhardstein-Nader, the author of the Vocabulary Assessment Scales, and we wanted to talk to you today about the product and give you a little bit of an overview of what it is and how it works. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
So what can you tell us about the VAS?
The Vocabulary Assessment Scales, or VAS, are designed to measure expressive and receptive language ability. Receptive vocabulary is the ability to comprehend the meaning of words when they're presented orally. So the stimulus will have 4 pictures, and the user is required to pick the picture that best represents the word. Expressive vocabulary, on the other hand, is the ability to orally articulate the meaning of words. So a single picture is presented along with a verbal prompt. So if you show a picture of an apple, for example, the prompt would be, "What is this?" And the examinee would have to then say apple, and that would be how they'd get the response correct. And for most of the VAS expressive, we're requiring a single word answer.
And what inspired you to create this product?
It's a good question. I've been doing reading research for about 15 years now, and I've noticed that a lot of the vocabulary tests we use on a regular basis are all line drawings, not digital photography. The lack of application of our newest technology to one of our oldest research questions is actually what inspired me to create the VAS.
So is there any research to support this new direction?
Yeah, there is. Digital photographs are widely considered more ecologically valid than line drawings. They tend to provide the highest degree of realism possible, and they're more representative of how an individual would learn and rehearse vocabulary in the real world. In addition, in the speech and language community, there's a concept called iconicity. Iconicity refers to the connections that are made between symbols and their reference, and reference just is a fancy way of saying objects in the real world. Iconicity happens to be on a continuum between transparency and opaqueness. And transparency is when the object and the referent are very closely related and the connection is easily discernible. On the opaque end of the spectrum, however, it's more difficult to make that connection between the symbol and the referent. Digital photographs tend to be considered more transparent to translucent on the iconicity continuum, whereas line drawings are more translucent to opaque. And many researchers believe that the translucently iconic pictures are easier to use with beginning communicators and a variety of different clinical populations, including those with cognitive deficits and acquired communication disorders.
So what's unique or special about the VAS?
Well, as I think I've mentioned before, digital photography is what makes the VAS so special. Between the expressive and the receptive tasks, there are over 2,000 digital images. In addition to that, the VAS has equivalent forms, so both the expressive and the receptive each have an alternate form. This makes them ideal for evaluating statistical change over time within an RTI or response to intervention model. Also, the stimulus books are available for digital download onto an iPad. And if you think about that, it's really a convenience factor for the clinicians. The difference between carting around 4 heavy stimulus books versus putting all 4 stimulus books onto an iPad is like night and day. It's going to be much more easily portable for them.
What can you tell me about the VAS that makes it special, and how does it compare to the competition?
I think you'll find that the VAS is comparable to our major competitors in terms of development and technical information. We conducted a substantial literature review before we wrote a single item. We consulted with a panel of experts in the field of vocabulary. These were psychologists, speech and language pathologists. We also conducted 2 rounds of pilot data before we began collecting data collection for the standardization sample. And we consulted with a bias panel while we were writing our items and evaluating whether or not to retain the items, and that helped us choose items that were not gender, ethnic, or racial, or religiously biased in any way. The standardization data collection was an impressive one. We have 2,700 cases. We collected them between 2010 and 2012. And we also collected 500 clinical cases from a variety of different groups: ADHD, autism spectrum, hard of hearing, reading disability, intellectual developmental disorder, TBI, stroke, aphasia, a wide variety. And finally, the VAS demonstrated strong positive correlations with a variety of other measures, including picture vocabulary, like the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test, the EVT, and the expressive and receptive one-word. It also correlated well with measures of language, like the self and the castle, measures of intelligence, like the RIAS, and other measures of academic achievement, like the RAT-4 and the Tyree.
So what are some scenarios that someone would use the VAS? Can you give us some examples?
Well, speech and language pathologists would use the vocabulary assessment scales to assess vocabulary or oral language development. In a school setting, school psychologists would use it to help pinpoint the source of reading or math reasoning or written expression deficits. They would also potentially use it to track improvement over time in vocabulary or reading in a response to intervention model. Neuropsychologists would use it to assess the impact of a variety of different neuropsychological deficits or trauma on vocabulary development. They might potentially use it to also measure premorbid IQ. And occupation and industrial psychologists may want to use the VAS to assess mastery of English language before they give them any other assessments.
And what age range is the VAS appropriate for?
The VAS assesses the entire lifespan, 2.5 to 95. We offer both age and grade-based norms, and the grade-based norms we split into fall and spring.
And how long does it take to administer?
The VAS takes about 15 to 20 minutes to administer and another 5 minutes to score. Scoring and reporting are also available on PAR iConnect, which is our web-based assessment platform.
So who's qualified to use the VAS? What qualification level do they have to have?
On the PAR website, we list the qualification as a B or an S, and I'll let you refer to that website for more details about that. But basically, you just require adequate training in psychological assessment, and you need to know enough about measurement theory to know about the concepts of reliability and validity. While it might not be an exhaustive list, psychologists, school counselors, special education teachers, psychometricians, and speech and language pathologists would probably all be qualified to administer, score, and interpret the VAS.
And how much does the VAS cost?
The combination kit costs $295. Now for that money, you get both the expressive and the receptive task, and you can choose to either get that combination for the print or the digital.
So thank you, Rebecca, for taking the time to meet with us and discuss the VAS. It sounds like a great new product. If you're interested in learning more about the VAS, you can visit PAR's website at parinc.com. That's PARINC.com. And thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.